Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, student. I hope you all are safe and doing well. Okay. So, as we discussed last time about the European regulatory system, EMA is the biggest health authority, highly regulated market, and they are like 27 plus 3 countries. Okay, so the whole Europe comprises of almost 30 countries. Okay, and the main health authority is EMA, and under EMA there are EDQM, CHMP, and multiple departments or scientific committee working, okay, together. So European is the biggest health authority, which was formed on 1st January 1995, and under jurisdictions of European Union, and headquartered are at Amsterdam, Netherlands. Okay, so I will just recap for 5 minutes because you have to remember about the European regulatory system before we proceed to the product variation, the product life cycle management under Europe. Okay, so under EMA organization, as I mentioned, there are executive director under which there are different staff, management, board, and scientific committees working. So there are mainly seven important scientific committee like CHMP, like Committee for Medicinal Product for Human Use, in which we will be working more of, because we are handling all pharma industry handling medicinal products. So those who are willing to work in veterinary, they have to approach to CMVP. Okay, so similarly orphan ke liye COMP, herbal, for herbal it is HMPC, for pediatric PDCO. So like that there are seven major scientific committees, and this is how the EMA organization looks like. Responsibility we have discussed. So any health authority's main objective is to what? Protect public health, and to maintain quality, safety, and efficacy of all the products. Okay. So apart from the regular work, they have other work like funding, financial management, budgetary reporting, and they are a major role to implement policies and procedures. Okay. So to get the marketing authorization, we have to meet this major three requirements. We have discussed this several times, right? Efficacy, safety, and quality. Then we moved on to European Marketing Authorization Procedure, which is centralized procedure, MRP, that is mutual recognition procedure, then decentralized procedure, that is DCP, national procedure, that is NP. Okay, so we started with the national procedure. That means only one EO member state, means one single application to one country. Okay, once you get the entry into Europe, you can mutually recognize other countries via MRP procedure or DCP procedure. So in this two procedure, you have to select one country, one member state as a RMS, that is reference member state, and other countries as a CMS, that is concerned member state. Okay, then centralized procedure is one application in entire Europe. So like in case of emergency use, COVID drug, Zika virus drug, then anti-AIDS, anti-cancer, rare disease, all those kind of application can be sent via centralized route, so that at one shot you get the marketing approval and you can sell your product to entire Europe. Okay, so that is the difference between four system, and we have discussed this in details during the last lecture. So today I thought just to have a recap. Okay, so how the centralized system works, we have discussed about the flow chart of each type of regulatory system. Okay, CP, then NP, that is national procedure. We have discussed about the timelines, how many days does it take, how the clock starts, how the clock stops, so everything we have discussed during the last week lecture. I hope it is pretty clear now how this four system works. Okay, so I will just browse through. Then we discussed about union register, in which we get all kind of information for the medicinal, veterinary, orphan products. About what? About what? Whether they are which product have the marketing authorization, okay, through the centralized procedure, okay. Then when this register also talks about the suspended or withdrawn or refused authorization product, medicinal product that were refused nationally, okay. Then we discussed about the legal basis for the application in Europe, that is 83 Article 83, 10.1, 10.3, 10.4, 10b. So in short, here it is given under which article what kind of products applications are submitted. For example, 10b means fixed dose combination products are submitted. Okay, the 8.3 means full or full mixed application, that is complete dossier. Okay, 10.1 article is generally used for the generic medicine. Okay, then hybrid medicinal product 10.3, 10.4 similar biologics. So 10b we have already. So all these articles are part of these directives. Once you understand this directive 2001/83 EC, EC means European Commission, EU means European Union. Okay, so under the European Union, uh, this article, these article numbers are very important, which are mentioned under this directive. Okay, so being a regulatory professional, you have to understand all the articles, applicability to the particular type of application. So we have discussed each article during last week. Okay, abridged application, then generic application, hybrid biosimilars. Okay, and these are the references. If you want to further explore on this topic, you can easily browse through it. Then we discussed about the ICH M4, that is CTD. So all the application, whether it is IND, NDA, NDA, BLA or generic applications, are sent to health authority by what? CTD format, by using CTD format. So ICH-M4 talks about the CTD format. Not only the CTD format, how it is organized in module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are the fonts are used, how the left margin, right margin, what kind of paper, what kind of clinical, non-clinical data, summaries, overall organization, and everything is mentioned under these guidelines. So these guidelines are such a beautifully written guidelines. One should read it thoroughly and understand, because whenever you will be working in regulatory affairs, day in day night you will be preparing the dossier, okay, in this CTD ECTD format, and in which this all the tips given under this guidance are very helpful. Trust me, very helpful. So we discussed about the organization, module 1, module 2, module 3, 4 and 5, in which module 2 is a quality overall summary of module 3, 4 and 5. Okay. When we talk about why module 1 is not part of CTD, your answer should be like it comprises of regional administrative information. Okay. That is why it is not harmonized and it is not part of CTD. CTD is what? Harmonized structure. It is a common technical document. All other format is common, okay? Whether module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as per ICH organization. But this is not common. And that is why it is called not part of the CTD. And this is part of the CTD, okay? Module 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we discussed each module in detail. Okay, so module 1 example also we have covered, like application form, mock label, PIL, all this goes as per regional specific. Say for example, if I want to register my product in Japan, so I have to give all the label, leaflet and all the administrative information in Japanese language. Tomorrow I have to go to Russia or Saudi Arabia, so Arabic. So like that, each country has their own country specific requirement. and which is administrative and the prescribed information goes under module 1. Okay, module 2 talks about the quality overall summaries of what module 3, 4 and 5, in which quality oral summary of non-clinical summary, non-clinical overview, then clinical summary, clinical overviews. Everything goes under this section. Okay, when we talk about non-clinical, it talks about the preclinical data of what animal study, the pharmacology, pharmacokinetics, and toxicology studies being conducted in animal, and that's why we have to give under the 2.6 section non-clinical written and tabulated summaries with respect to pharmacology, pharmacokinetics, and toxicology. Whereas 2.7 section talks about the clinical summary wherein we conduct human trials, right? The clinical studies in human. So which gives the biopharmaceutical studies and associated analytical methods, clinical pharmacological studies, clinical efficacy, and safety data. Understood? And what else? Literature references, synopsis of individual studies. So while doing these studies, you can use the published literature, through scientific journal, PubMed, or any reliable sources. Then module 3 discuss about what the body of data means. Module 3 discuss about the quality part. Quality of what? Body of data means it talks about the drug substance and the drug product. Okay, module 4 again non-clinical study report, module 5 clinical study report. Okay, and then we have discussed about the granularity, how the granularity is maintained when we talk about CTD, and CTD is converted to eCTD by using software. Okay, see to that all softwares used for the regulatory submissions are 21 CFR Part 11 compliant. Okay. So how you maintain the granularity right from the beginning in the Tetra Zero? Like when you submit the original application, it is called 0000 means Tetra Zero. Okay. You can start the sequence from 0001 also. Okay, but the next version, when you are going to submit as an annual report or any version with respect to changes, okay, when you maintain the product lifecycle management, then it goes as a 0001. So today I'm going to show how this organization looks like, how the granularity is maintained. Okay, so this granularity I have discussed during last lecture how the module 2 looks like, how it is divided, subdivided, broken into small parts, small documents. So if we call this as a main folder, module 2, then under module 2 there will be these are the subfolders. Then the subfolder under 2.3 again you will see there is 2.3s, 2.3p, 2.3a and 2.3r. Under S, again there is S1 to S7. Under P means product, S means substance. P1, P product is P1 to P8. Okay. So that means if you understand what kind of documentation required to submit under each folder, this organization is harmonized. These common technical documents given under the ICH organization is very much harmonized in US, Europe, and Japan. Okay, so when we talk about the organization and the granularity and how it has to be submitted, then one should understand that every document should be numbered starting at the page 1. What does it mean? Always we give the pagination as 1 of x of y, means 1 of 10, 2 of 10, and last will be 10 of 10, because we are attaching different kind of document like specification, test procedure, validation, stability report, container closure system. We talk about n number of documents which goes under this granularity. Am I right? When we talk about clinical study reports, which goes under, the non-clinical goes under module 4 and the clinical goes under module 5. Okay, so when I am going to share this presentation, you have to read about the note. The right hand side I have given the key, what kind of documents, what level of granularity you have to define during your submission. So you will understand the legend used for yellow, purple, and green, and the note given under. So if you see under 5.3.5, note 2 is given. So you should read note 2. What is it? So for application in support of more than one indication, this section should be repeated for each indication. What does it mean? Suppose if there are two indication, I have given one example like aspirin. Okay, it has two indication. It is used as an antipyretic and analgesic, as well as blood thinning. Okay, and you have studied for the two indication. Then you can repeat this section. Okay, you can give the naming convention as, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can add those many documents on which you must have performed the studies. Okay, so this is the way how the granularity has to be done. Then uh, one more example I would like to quote here, in the 3 to S part. S means the substance, drug substance part. Suppose if I have a one document called analytical procedure, and which is a bulky document, okay, which has 150 pages, and our IC specification says the file size should be minimum, up to, say for example, 50 MB, and our file size goes up to 150 MB. Then it is ideally we have to divide into three parts. Okay, then you have to mention that analytical procedure under, under one tab as procedure A, then procedure B, procedure C, and you have to give the pagination. Suppose 1 of 50. Okay, 1 of 50, then 51 of what, 51 to 100, then 101 to 150. So like that you can break your document into three parts and attach. So the granularity will be maintained, the hierarchy of that particular folder will be maintained, and the proper file naming convention to be used. Okay, how you present your data, how you give the name to each file, that depends on you, because see, everything depends on you and your reviewer sitting at USFDA or EMA is going to, review your document, and if you make him very comfortable, if you make your document very user friendly, then only there are chances to get the marketing approval easily, or the faster, I would say. And that's the reason how granular you make the document, how naming convention you are using for the document, and how you attach to this organization, it depends on you. So the skill sets are required. Secondly, the quality oral summary, how it has to be written, that also skills required. So usually medical writers and consultant like us are used to write the quality oral summary, because see, each reviewer will pick up the quality oral summary, because all module, like he doesn't have so much time to go through entire module, which module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is comprising of thousands and thousands of documents. So what the reviewer will do first, he to understand your product, he will pick up the QoS, quality oral summary, how it was written, how the non-clinical data is presented, how the clinical data is presented. Okay, so that justification, how you have given, how you have summarized, so that he will see and he will feel like to enter into other section, and thoroughly review. So quality oral summary generally written, in 40 pages, apart from your tables and other part of the list for the medicinal product, and for biotech product it should not be more than 80 pages. Okay, so with this I have covered ICH M4, CTD, module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so module 3, 4, 5 we have covered earlier also. When we talk about ASMF or DMF, only module 1, 2, 3 will go, in which S part, that is the drug substance part, ideally submitted. When we talk about ANDA, BLA, or any NDA, sorry, then module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goes. In case of NDA, all modules are required. In case of BLA, all modules are required. Whereas in case of ANDA, module 4 and 5 is replaced with the BAB data, that is bioequivalence study. Okay, so these things you have to remember well. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how actually this organization looks like. You know, can you see my screen? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you can see this tetra zero.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is how you have to prepare your module. Okay, the CTD. So this is a CTD dossier, okay, in which the first original application is tetra zero, under which you have to make module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so under module 1, then again you have to maintain the hierarchy, the granularity which is mentioned as per ICH. Okay, so under module 1 there is form, cover letter, administrative information. So all these documents will go inside this folder. Okay, so you will see the main folder is this, then the subfolder, and then the subfolder. So under regional, whatever documents you are providing will go under the regional. Then module 2 talks about the quality overall summary, under which module 2 again divided into 2.1, 2.2, 3, 4, 5, correct, 6, 7. So like that you have to submit the organization, like submit the document as per the organization of CTD. So I hope it is pretty clear. Quality module. Now under quality module 3, there is body of data and the literature the literature and what references. So here under body of data you can see there are four subfolders, which talks about 32P, that is drug product, 32S, that is drug substance, 32R is original information, 32A is appendices. So 32P means drug product. So as I mentioned earlier, under drug product, P1, P2, P3, P4 up to P8. Okay. So P1 talks about composition of your product. Then P2 talks about the pharmaceutical document, development report. Then P3 manufacture, P4 control of excipient, P5 control of drug product, P6 references standard or material used, P7 container closure system, P8 talks about the stability. Correct? So you have to remember under P8 again P8.1, 8.2, 8.3. So how much granular it is you can see. Okay, so this is the way how the dossier is prepared. Again, you see under quality, I'm going through body of data. Drug product, I have already shown to you. Drug substance, how the drug substance, S1, S2, S3. So we provide information relevant to API. And that's the reason I said earlier that whenever you submit ASMF, CP, or DMF, you have to provide data relevant to S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6, S7. What is S1? S1 is general information about your drug substance. What is S2? S2 means manufacture of your drug substance. Under the manufacture, you have to give the description, manufacturing procedure, how you are using what kind of material, how you control, what are the critical steps, how the process validation is done, and how you develop your manufacturing process. So all these documents are attached to the respective folder. Okay, and all the documents submitted under each section has to be in the PDF format. Okay, so understood. General information, manufacture, characterization, control of drug substance, reference standard, container closure system, stability. And under each of these folder, you will see there are other subfolders in which you have to attach those PDF documents. Now, I will show one dossier which was submitted to health authority. Okay. Now this is vitamin D we have submitted to health authority. Say for example, this was my dossier and this was my module. Okay. Suppose this was submitted to SFDA. SFDA means Saudi Arabian FDA. So you can see when I had given the cover letter to Saudi Arabia, I will see to that it is a regional specific requirement. So how it will look like? Regional specific means Saudi Arabia asks to submit in Arabic language. Am I right? And that's the reason this is the letter which I have submitted in Arabic language. Okay. Now I move on to the next folder, form. Now the submission form. Okay, Saudi Arabian form. So I have submitted this form, okay, as per the Saudi Arabian requirement. Similarly, all the documents, if you see in the module, like module 2, I have given the summary, okay, non-clinical summary, clinical overview. I cannot show each and every document because this is a submitted dossier which is confidential, okay. So I will just browse through. So how the document looks like, how the dossier is submitted, how the PDFs and other documents are attached. Okay. So that's the reason you have to submit all the dossier into this CTD format. Okay. So you have seen the actual dossier, how it has to be submitted. Correct? Module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. Then module 5, and when we submit this dossier as a what? CTD or ECTD format, you will see three other folder like utility folder, index.xml and index md5 checksum. Okay. So when we go to index, so I don't know whether the it will be open as an index because I wanted to show you as a HTML, that is XML backbone, because entire CTD is converted as a XML backbone, that like this. Okay. So whenever reviewer click any button, like you can see all the document, like see regional information, quality overall summary, these all our documents are hyperlinked. So when I go to there and click, so all the information is available at a single click button. You can see such a big XML backbone is generated out of your eCTD software. Okay. And that is why electronic submission has become very very popular nowadays, and it has become mandatory also. So all health authority like US, Europe, Japan, Canada and many of other countries are asking us to submit dossier into eCTD format. That is the advantage, because reviewers time is saved, each information is available with the single click button. Okay. And I hope it is pretty clear now how the organization of CTD looks like. Actual may understood. Then suppose when I have to update, when next year I have to give the product lifecycle management. Under product lifecycle management, I have submitted this original dossier. Then I have to submit the revised document. So whatever I have revised, I have to send module 1, okay, and module 3. Suppose if I have submitted some stability data, or as per the query, suppose they have asked some queries that this data is missing, or if I have updated stability report after post approval, okay, then I have to submit those many document and I have to give the summary of that. Understood? So the next time when next year when it is updated, the sequence will be like 0001 and a original will be tetra 0. Okay. Suppose next to next year again I am submitting with the changes, then again what will happen? 0002. 0003 triple. So like that my folders will be generated and I will keep track of it. Okay, which data was submitted in original application, and later on what are the changes I have maintained. That is that those I mean those folders you have to maintain, those sequence you have to maintain. Now it is clear how this marketing authorization or the dossiers are prepared and submitted to different health authority. Say yes or no. Hello. Have you understood how this CTD is organized, how the granularity is maintained?
Yes, ma'am.
It's pretty clear. Okay. So thank you for your attention, and now I will move on to next session, that is product life cycle management. As per the European system, it is called European variation. Okay. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is the presentation prepared by my colleague Sachin, and it talks about the post-approval lifecycle management of pharmaceutical products in Europe. Okay, so you know, each product has to maintain their life cycle. Correct? How I have shown, like we have submitted one application, say for example, last year. Okay, we for which I have given the sequence number tetra 0 because it was submitted to Europe, and as per European standard it was mandatory requirement to submit in ECTD format. Correct? Now next year, like suppose 1 year I have completed and couple of queries I have received at the same time. When I have submitted the original application, only 6 month accelerated stability data was available and I have sent it to health authority. Correct? But now I have 1 year data, right? Additional 1 year I have conducted. 6 months plus 1 year. How many months? 12 plus 6, 18 months. Now I have 18 months stability data, correct? For the real time. So it is my duty to update, inform FDA or the EMA that I have 18 months stability data. Plus, suppose if I have some changes in the specification or any kind of changes which I have to notify to EDQM, sorry, Europe. Then what happened? It is called post approval, the life cycle management. So in this presentation, we are going to discuss about registration of pharmaceutical product in Europe. We have already discussed, correct? But introduction of product life cycle management for the pharmaceutical product in Europe, under which EU variation application. What is the concept of variation? How the variations are classified? What are the different types of variations? Okay. So definition, each type of variation, fundamental concept and examples. Then the documentation required for variation filing, grouping of variation, timeline of variation. Then there is a term called EU renewal application. Okay. What is the meaning of renewal? Renewal ka submission timelines, and takeaway message. So all these points we will be discussing. Okay. So EU as a market for pharmaceutical industries, I have mentioned several times there are 27 member states in European Union. Plus there are three additional IFTA states. Okay. European Federal Trade Association, IFTA. Okay. So those are the three countries like Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. and that's the reason total 30 countries or member states of Europe. It is always called, but each country has their own, national, regional specification and regional requirement. As I mentioned during my Europe lecture, that if you want to go to Germany, not go to, apply to Germany, you have to translate module 1 into German language, to France, French language, like that. So you have to maintain country specific, regional specific requirement. Okay. So legal basis for all different application also we have discussed, if you recollect, under Directive 2001, right? 8.3 article, 10.1 article, 10b, correct? 10.3 and 10.4. So we have discussed those abridged application and the combination product and everything we have discussed. So similarly, under variation also there are legal basis. How you compile the dossier for different types of variations, like type 1A, 1B. We'll come to that. This also we have discussed about the, what you say, the CTD organization, module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct? How the data is generated, compiled, and submitted by using this organization, correct? How the granularity is maintained. We have covered this legal basis, correct? Now we talk about the post approval lifecycle management. So these are the common term, when we talk about the post approval, means after approval, how you maintain your license, how you maintain your product in market. Correct? Like I will give one example of Sandoz, calcium Sandoz. Okay. It's a very old 60 years brand. Still it is existing. How? Because they keep on renewing the application, they keep on making changes as per the customer requirement. Correct? So they maintain all the pharmacovigilance system and other requirement as per the rules and regulations. Correct? They keep on renewing. So the renewal, variation, pharmacovigilance, these are the three requirements. These are the three bases for submission, wherein you can maintain your product years and years altogether. Okay. So what is variation? Under Europe, it is a common terminology used, that is variation. What is variation? Okay. Variation means as per Annex 1, Annexure 1, we can speak about, that is extension of marketing authorization. Annex 2 is classification of variation. Annex 3, wherein couple of variation you can group in. Okay. Annex 4 means elements to be submitted. Annex 5 means variations concerning a change or addition of therapeutic indication. Okay. Addition of non-food producing target species or replacement or addition of stereotype strain. So don't get confused. Slowly, we will move forward, because once you understand what is variation, okay, variation is an amendment. Okay, it's an amendment to the content of the documents of approved dossier. So once you get the approval for your submitted dossier, in our case, suppose Tetra 0, that is 000 original application, you have submitted to EMA via any route, DCP, MRP, CP, you get the marketing authorization, that is approval. But after that, if you want to amend, okay, so variation is nothing but it is an amendment to your marketing authorization application with respect to what? The contents of the documents of approved dossier. Okay. So European variation guidelines, such a beautifully written. You can take these guidelines, you can download yourself, or we will share with you. This is the guideline. Okay. okay, which was published in 2013, but still it is applicable. So, what type of variation you want to submit? It is the based on always administrative changes or CMC, that is chemistry manufacturing control with respect to quality changes, or safety efficacy and pharmacovigilance changes. Okay, so these are the three types of changes generally happen in case of your product life cycle. Correct? So variation are broadly classified into minor variation and major variation. So under minor variation there are type 1A and type 1B. Under major it is type 2. So remember, minor variations are sub-classified as 1A, 1B, and major it is only type 2. Okay. Again, if you ask me type 1A, okay, 1A, 1B. So under 1A also there is, 1A in, that is immediate notify. So these are the types of variation, okay, as per EU variation guideline. I will repeat, as per EU variation guideline, which was published in 2013, there are mainly two variation, minor and major. Major is type 2 only, but minor are divided into 1A, 1B. Okay, and there is third variation, that is extension application. That is also called as variation. Okay, so let us focus on one by one. Type 1A variation. Okay, so type 1A, as I mentioned, it comes under minor variation and which have only a minimal impact or no impact at all on your quality, safety, efficacy of the medicinal product, and do not require prior approval before implementation. You have to just do and tell procedure. 1A means what? Do and tell. You need not to go for prior approval. Correct? So such a minor variation, again it is subclassified into two, that is type 1A variation, 1A in, that is requiring immediate notification, and type 1A variation not requiring immediate notification, that is 1A. Understood? 1A is divided into 1A in, okay, IN you can see, that is requiring immediate notification, and this does not require immediate notification. So we have brought some examples under 1A when you can apply for 1A variation. Okay, because it has minimal impact, correct? It is like a negligible impact on your quality, safety, efficacy. But what kind of? One have to understand, when you are divided, 1A in means immediate notification and 1A variation, then you have to specifically understand, what kind of examples we can consider under these two types of application under minor changes. Correct? So simple, change in name or address for the marketing authorization holder, or change in name or address of manufacturer, importer of finished product. Correct? Or maybe change in imprints, bossing, or other markings of the finished product, change in the shape of dimension of the pharmaceutical from particularly immediate release to capsules, or changes in the composition like excipients of the finished product, changes in the components like addition or deletion of replacement of the flavoring or coloring agent. Okay, so these are the immediate note variation which you can do and tell. Okay, do and tell procedure. Then 1A, tightening of specification limits. Say for example, earlier impurity limits were like 1% of unknown impurities. Now you have tightened up to 0.5% of label claim. Okay, so that kind of tightening of specification can go under type 1A variation. Then addition of a new specification parameters to the specification with its corresponding test methods. If you are adding any additional specification parameter, like suppose microbial limit test, you have not added earlier, but due to the latest guidelines, you are going to add MLT. Then that is called addition of new specification parameter. Then deletion of non-significant specification parameter, like some tests are becoming obsolete, like odor or taste or identification test for a coloring flavoring material. So those kind of deletion can happen in your specification and you can capture under 1A application. Then changes in the batch size. Okay, the finished product, like up to 10-fold compared to the originally approved batch size. Then the basic concept I will ask, okay, why certain minor variation of type 1A require immediate notification? Correct? Why there is a need of immediate notification? So answer is what? Certain minor variation of type 1A require immediate notification after implementation in order to ensure the continuous supervision of the medicinal product by health authorities. Correct? Because health authorities continuously supervising your product, and that's why you have to go under this immediate notification. Then why type 1A invalidation should be submitted? Correct? Why you have to notify and why you also submit? So this should be submitted immediately and generally within 2 weeks of the implementation of the change that you have implemented. Correct? You have notified also and you have implemented. Do and tell. Correct? So what is the documented evidence that you have implemented? So you have to do and tell to health authority that look, this is the document. Say for example specification change or limit tightening. So those kind of document you have to submit. Then what is meant by implementation for type 1A variation? So for quality changes, implementation is when the company makes the change in its own quality system, and this interpretation allows company to manufacture conformance batches and generate any needed stability studies to support type 1A in variation before making an immediate notification, because the change will not be made in their own quality system until these data are available. Of course, correct. So implementation means what? When you make actual changes in your own quality system, correct? And when you make the actual changes to meet the compliance system, the conformity system, then only you can support to this 1A variation. Again, one example is given, the type 1A in for addition, deletion, or replacement of components in the flavoring or coloring system requires stability data. Correct. So when you are changing, the deleting the or replacing the component for the flavoring and coloring agent, then you have to see that after changing this color, does it affect the quality of your product? How you can prove? By performing stability studies. Correct. Whether after changing, replacing the color component, whether it affects my quality or any tablet syrup, that you have to give at least two pilot scale or industrial scale batches. So you have to take the batches with the changed ingredient, the replaced ingredient, and perform stability studies and provide the data. Okay, so that is how it comes under implementation. And for product information, it is when the company internally approves the revised product information, and the revised product information will then be used in the next packaging run. So, understood? These are the basic concept we are going to clear. So, I hope type 1A, that is minor variation, is pretty clear now. And under 1A, what is the meaning of 1A in, that is immediate, and 1A. Okay. Now we come to 1B. 1B variation means what? Under the European Commission regulation, what it defines a minor variation of type 1B, which is neither a type 1A variation, nor type 2 variation, nor an extension. Correct? So understand the definition as per the law, as per the directives, that 1B means what? It is neither type 1A variation, nor type 2 variation, nor an extension. So such minor variation must be notified to the national competent authority or EMA by the marketing authorization holder, MAH, before implementation. Okay, so it is not similar to 1A in. That is what 1A in means what? Immediate इकला lecture मध्ये. So you have to intimate, and what you have to say, such minor variation must be notified to the national competent authority, and what, before implementation. What? Before implementation. So however, the marketing authorization holder has to wait for 30 days to ensure that the notification is acceptable by the agency before implementing the change. That means tail, wait, and do the procedure. Okay, so this is how this type B variation works. Are you clear, guys? Are you clear with this? So, what is the difference between type 1A and 1B variation? I hope it is pretty clear. So, you have to tell, wait, and then the. So, before implementation, only you have to take the permission. I mean, you have to intimate to the EMA. Okay, then we'll consider the examples of type 1B variation, that is minimum to moderate impact on product quality. That is tell, wait, and do the procedure. What is it? Tell, wait, and do the procedure. What are the example? Replacement or addition of a manufacturing site for part or all of the manufacturing process of the finished product. Okay, that means what? Replacement or addition of manufacturing site for part of all the manufacturing process of finished product. So suppose if your site, which is already registered during your initial application, now you want to change that site, okay, or any of the manufacturing operation you have to change to the different site, then you can go through this type 1B variation. In certain cases, you have to extend the shelf life of the finished product or as a package for sale. Then you have to perform real-time studies, stability studies, and give the report. Then, if there are changes in the pack size of the finished product, okay, change outside the range of currently approved pack sizes. Then the changes in type of container or addition of a new container for solid, semi-solid, or non-sterile liquid pharmaceutical product. So in these four type of typical changes, you can go through type 1B changes, which has minimum to moderate impact on product quality. Okay. So have you understood the difference? Do and tail, and then tail, wait, and do procedure. Then come to third variation, that is type 2 variation. Okay. So as per the definition, what is it? Type 2 variation is what? Which is not an extension and which may have a significant impact on your quality, safety, and efficacy of medicinal product. That is why it is considered as a major variation. Okay, sometimes it becomes very critical because it has impact on your quality, safety, or efficacy. Am I right? And that's the reason type 2 variations are very challenging to handle. It's very costly affair also. Okay. So what are the example? In case, suppose if you are adding alternatives API, or you altogether you are changing your API with the new API or new API DMF supplier, or you are widening your approved specification, or major changes in your approved manufacturing process of finished product, correct? Then major change in approved composition of the finished product. So you are changing your composition with one or two new ingredient, or you are changing your active pharmaceutical ingredient, correct, with the new supplier. So all in case of all these four cases, you can go for the type 2 variation. Then it is extension application. Okay, extension means what? Changes to the marketing authorization listed in Annex 1 of EC Regulation 1234 2008. It is regarded as extension of the marketing authorization. When it happens, for example, changes to the active substance, okay? So replacement of a chemical active substance by different salt, ester, or derivatives with the same therapeutic moiety, where the efficacy safety characteristics are not significantly different. I had quoted one example, remember? Suppose if you are changing amlodipine bisalate with amlodipine maleate, okay? That is replacement of chemical active substance with the similar kind of active substance wherein there is no significant change in efficacy and safety. In that case, you can go for extension of application. Okay. Then change to strain or the pharmaceutical form or the route of administration. Correct? Suppose if you are changing from 500 mg to 650 mg, so you have to perform, of course, bioavailability studies and all. With this change in dose, you can, whether the patient is getting the same benefits out of, whether the benefit versus risk ratio is minimum or maximum, that you have to evaluate. So in such cases, you can ask for the extension. Okay. Then sometime route of administration, like if you you are you are going from parenteral route to, again for the tablet, that is oral route, or from oral to parenteral, in that case also you can ask for the extension. Dosage form like tablet to capsule or maybe tablet to syrup, you can go for. Then changes in bioavailability study, pharmacokinetics, rate of release, new strength or new potency, correct? Then change or addition of new pharmaceutical form or new route of administration, this we have discussed. So in all these 4 5 cases, you can go with the extension application. Okay. Then such application will be evaluated in accordance with the same procedure as for the granting of initial marketing authorization to which it relates. Okay. So you have submitted Teta 0, that is original application. Again, you are submitting 0001 under this type 2 variation. So it will be evaluated based on the previous data also, okay, granting the initial marketing authorization. Then the extension can either be granted as a new marketing authorization or will be included in the initial marketing authorization to which it relates. So it depends on health authority, depends on your data provided, your application submitted, and how you have justified. Okay, you may get as a new marketing authorization or the similar way for the same product which you have already submitted. Okay, so the evaluation procedure adapted to the level of risk. Okay, so EMA, that is European Medicinal Agency, can evaluate based on the risk, right? That how those changes are affecting your quality, safety, and efficacy. Correct. So the evaluation is always done with respect to what benefits versus risk ratio to the patient. Am I right? Benefit versus the risk. If the risk is more, then what happens? It require what? Prior approval. Say for example, now same type 1A, type 1B, type 2 and extension. So in case of type 1B, type 2, extension, tail, wait and do. So these are at higher risk. Am I right? These are at higher risk because it may affect the quality, efficacy and what? Quality, safety and efficacy of your products. And that's why such type of variation needs a prior approval. Correct? So whatever changes you are going to make in this in your product, and you are changing, you are applying through this type 2 or type 1B or extension application, then you need a prior approval. And that's the reason tell, wait and do concept is applied here. Whereas in case of minor changes, you can do and tell, right? So type 1A, that is 1A in or 1A, you need not to go for prior approval because there is a low risk. Okay. So this slide shows about the level of risk involved in different type of variation. Understood? Now we continue with the grouping of variation. Okay, grouping of variation. So sometimes we have a question, right? Is it possible to group variation of different categories, the same marketing authorization, and submit them in one submission under a single application form to the same relevant authority? This is permissible where variation are covered under the cases listed as per Annex 3 to the variation regulation. Okay, so what I mean to say here, as for Annex 3, there are some cases in which you can go for the grouping of variation for similar kind of submission and under the single application. Okay, so examples are any group of 1A changes, a group comprising a type 1B or type 2 changes, plus one or more of the same or lower category which are consequential to the first, and a group of administrative changes to the labeling. Okay. So the 14 cases of grouping listed in Annex 3 of EC regulation, that is 1234 2008. Okay, and you can refer to question and answer for the grouping variation. It is very nicely given under EMA. Then there is a CMDH guidance. Examples are also given for the acceptable and non-acceptable grouping for MRPDCP products. Okay, so you can refer to these documents, and further, if you have still queries in your mind, you can clarify your doubts. And if a projected group is not listed in Annex 3, the regulation and supporting guidances permit the marketing authorization holder to request agreement of the relevant authorities to grouping of related changes where a single data package and evaluation are meaningful. Okay, so you have to note that where this group of variation is required and how it has to be submitted or handled. you know so it has to be handled as per the highest variation type included in the group. Say for example type 1A plus type 1A, so group could be type 1A, but type 1A and type 1B, so highest variation is what? Group will be 1B. And if you group 1A, 1B and type 2, then it could be type 2. Okay. So always you have to go for the highest variation. When you buy 1 plus 1, you know, if you buy two products and third one be free, the how they consider that, they consider the highest price out of three. Correct? When you go for the sale, that one product is free on two, but they go for the highest price of that one of the product. So similarly, in case of grouping also, you have to see which is the most critical, right? And that's how you can grouping. Otherwise, you can single apply. Then we discuss about the what kind of documentation required for the variation filing. Okay. The first thing I have shown also practically the cover letter, right? Cover letter is very important. Even if you send your resume, you have to send your cover letter, correct? So similarly, whenever you are sending your application to any health authority, you have to have cover letter. Okay. Then you have to attach a completed EU variation application form. So you can download application form 1A, 1 1B, whichever respective variation you are supposed to apply for, you have to complete that application. Then the confirmation that the relevant fees have been paid as required by health authority. So you have to attach proof of payment. Okay. Then a copy of relevant pages of variation classification guideline. Correct? So while you are classifying your variation under type 2 or type 1A or 1B, that particular guidance classification page you have to scan and you have to attach. Okay. Then the amendments of the relevant section of the dossier, right? Suppose I have shown you in the tetra 0001, we have changed the stability data and one more document, right? So those many documents, whichever you are amending, like specification you are changed, then the specification. So relevant section of the dossier as per your CTD granularity, you can attach. Then any additional supporting data to the proposed variation. Suppose by that time you have finished with 18 months or 24 months stability data, you can attach that data also, okay? That document. Or any supporting data relevant to any test performed, correct? Then an update or addendum to the quality summaries, non-clinical overviews and clinical overviews as relevant. If at all it is relevant about non-clinical clinical summaries, you can update module 2 also. Okay. Suppose in any case you are updating module 3 or module 4 or 5. So with respect to that, you have to update your QoS, quality oral summary also. Okay. So respective documents, I mean changed version, you can attach to respective folders as per CTD granularity. And in case that the variation affects the summary of product characteristic, summary of product characteristic, labeling or package leaflet, the revised product information presented in the appropriate format as well as the relevant translation. As I said, SPC, label, leaflet, it goes as per regional specific requirement. So you have to get translated into local language. Okay. Then where the overall design and readability of the outer and immediate packaging or package leaflet is affected, mock-ups or specimens should be provided to the health authority. Okay. So this is how the submission of variation application for the registration of pharmaceutical product happens. Okay. So suppose if you are using national procedure, okay, so it goes to what? Via NCAs, right? Authorization by the national competent authority. That is single member state. Okay. So the submission of variation application of registered pharmaceutical. Then mutual DCP or the MRP, as I mentioned earlier, you have to select one country as your RMS and multiple as your CMS. Correct? So this is authorization by several member states based on the assessment by reference member state. Then centralized also we have spoke, right? Authorized by entire European Commission, EMA, right? Based on the assessment of EMA and valid in all member states. That is 30 European countries. Correct? So what is the registration procedure versus variation procedure difference? So in national application, individual countries, under variation, national variation application procedure. Under MRP DCP, it is MRP. Whereas in centralized procedure, centralized. Pretty simple. So under MRP DCP, it goes through MRP, okay, variation. Under national, it is national only. Centralized is centralized variation only. So that is the difference between registration procedure and variation procedure. And under European regulatory system, we have discussed this: what is national, what is MRP, DCP, and centralized procedure. Correct. Then we come to the timelines for type 1A. Correct. So the notification of receipt letter will be issued by the NCA or EMA generally within 5 days of receipt of 1A application. And within 30 days of receipt, the notification would be reviewed. The NCA or EMA will check the correction of what application form and ensure the required documentation is present and compliance with the required condition. So the outcome of the process is what? An approval or the refusal would be communicated to MAH via email. Okay, so the marketing authorization holder will be communicated by the SEMA, okay, or they can post on the portal. So simply 30 days are required. Like 0 day, they receive the type 1A variation. Day 1 start the clock, okay, and by day 30 you get the acknowledgement of acceptance or refusal. If it is refused, then you have to resubmit. So there will be no interaction of NC or EMA with the marketing authorization holder during this procedure, and no request to provide missing information. Okay, directly you can get either accepted or refused. So type 1A notification is what? Do and tell procedure. Therefore, changes must be implemented prior to submission of the notification. Then type 1A variation through MRP DCP. 0 day it starts. Okay, RM is the reference member state starts the procedure and complete the CTS period. And CMS are only informed via CTS where there will be no additional email. Okay, so until 30 days, the RMS checks if the notification can be accepted, and the CMS only checks if the notification has been received and if the fees has been paid as appropriate. And on day 30, the RMS will inform to MMH on behalf of CMS of the outcome of variation. So here also type 1A variation what? 30 days are required. Okay. Type 1B, this is purely national procedure or centralized procedure. So NCA or IMA will check within 7 calendar days whether the proposed change can be considered as a minor variation of type 1B and whether the notification is correct and complete. Okay, that means validation of your dossier happens before the start of evaluation procedure. Then the substantive assessment is done within 30 days and leads either to approval or a request for further information later within that 30 days. So the company's response to RFI letter is what? Received 30 days, correct? RFI is request for information. And assessment of that response is within further 30 days. That means 60 days. Okay. So for type 1B, it is required 60 days. And I sang एक लाएगा. So type 1B requires 60 days. So type 1B submission MH. So here you can see the MRP DCP procedure. So day 0 to day 30, you can see how the clock works. Okay, you can read it later on. I'm going to share this slide, but try to understand the procedure for under each variation. You know how the clock starts and how they review. You know the RMS, CMS, how the assessment report is provided, and then it is collectively reviewed. Okay, when the clock starts, when the clock stops. Okay, so entire procedure is given under this chart. So So this is we have covered in this way type 1A, 1B, 1AI in. Now we move to the type 2 variation. Okay. So type 2 variation of purely national procedure or the centralized procedure. Okay. which follow a 30-day, that is reduced timetable, 60-day standard timetable, or 90-day procedure extended complex timetable, depending upon the complexity of the variation application. Correct? So here also you can see within 30 days what all activities happens, okay, with our NCA and IMA, and 90 days, what can happen, and 120-day procedure. So there are, in short, to handle type 2 variation, there are three types of a procedure depending on the complexity of the variation application. Okay, so we don't know what kind of variation you are going for, right? And that's the reason, once you submit all the documents under this type 2 variation, it takes 22 days to 60 days or 90 days to assess your application. Okay, depending on again how it is urgent or how it is complex. And that's the reason these are the stages mentioned, that is start the assessment, that is clock is on day 0 in all cases, assessment done during day 22, approved, refused, or withdrawn, or procedure finalized, right? Or you may get request for further information, correct? And if they sent you RFI, then the clock stops, correct? Then the clock stops. Then you have to give the amended application for the RFI step. So time scale of the receipt of response, after 21 days, 10 days is given, and then after, by the 30th days, the response received clock starts, okay, on completion of processing, excluding clock off time. Okay, so it's a bit, don't get confused, I mean to say it's pretty clear. This chart is mentioned how it happens depending on the complexity of your product application and depending on how urgent it is. Okay, but finally the decision maker is EMA only. Okay, NCA and EMA, they will decide whether you have to give the approval within 30 days procedure, 90 days procedure, or 120 days procedure. Okay, so again, type 2 variation under MRP DCP. This is for centralized procedure. This is for MRP DCP. So for MRP DCP, within 90 days, you get the approval. So if you see on the right hand side, same procedure I have described. Okay, how the clock starts, how the clock stops. How much time you get in between. You know, so you can read this in your mind. Once you submit the application variation to RMS CMS, okay, then how it is started, like start the procedure, RMS notifies timetable to CMS, then RMS circulates to PVR to the CMS, correct? And then CMS send the possible comments to PVR to the RMS. So if you don't understand anything, let us discuss at the end of the session if anything is not clear to you. So we have reached on the last submission, that is EU renewal application and submission timeline. So once you get the approval for the marketing authorization, it is valid for 5 years. Okay, and it is renewable upon application by the marketing authorization holder. So once renewed, the marketing authorization will be valid for an unlimited period. Okay, this we spoke during our CEP ASMF submission also. Okay, so initially you get 5 years, then once you renew, then unlimited period you get the marketing authorization. But it will be decided by the competent authority on the justified ground of what? Pharmacovigilance. Suppose in case of certain medicinal product which gives, the adverse effect or adverse event are happening around, then again there are chances of, providing data. There are chances of withdrawal of that molecule also. You must have heard about nitrosamine impurity, genotoxic impurities are generated by many of the old product. You might have heard about ranitidine and one more product, wherein they have banned and elemental impurities. So in such cases, there are chances to withdraw the product from the market, or you have to again provide the clinical data which can prove that your product is safe, still safe in the human. That's why this pharmacovigilance system is very important, to justify that your product is safe. Continuously you have to monitor, continuously you have to submit your PSUR, okay? The safety update report, DSUR, drug safety update report. So, under renewal, the authorization may be renewed upon application by the marketing authorization holder at least 9 months before its expiry. Okay, and in the case of MIH does not submit the renewal application, the MA will expire by law. This we have covered more or less under module 1, what kind of documents goes, okay? Cover letter, renewal application, and all other documents, summary of product characteristic, information about export, risk management plan, okay? Module 2, again quality oral summary. So, what is the takeaway from the entire presentation? Is what nowadays, product lifecycle management becoming very popular, jobs in the industry. So these are the activities performed by regulatory people. Because lots of changes happening to your product, right? And one company has at least 500 to 1000 product portfolio. The bigger size company I'm talking about. So you can imagine how many product licenses, how many variations, how many things, you have to monitor. You have to make compilation, dossier, document, everything goes around this post approval changes, life cycle management. Okay, so you have to have thorough understanding about the dossier requirement, then categorization of the variation, whether it falls under 1A, 1A in, 1B, or 2. Okay, so and also what kind of impact it is going to happen with respect to quality, safety, and efficacy. And you have ability to work on multiple assignment at the same time, correct? Then the effective strategy making, planning, and prioritization are essential in your workflow. And effective coordination with the multiple cross-functional team is crucial within your organization, because you have to coordinate with QC department, RA department, sorry, R&D department, analytical development, QA. So you have to closely work with management department also, like your BD person, portfolio team, supply chain, global project management. So you should have very good people management skill, effective communication skill, right? Because you are dealing with the health authority also, European health authorities, at the same time the internal stakeholder, QC, QA, R&D, and all. So that is why people working under this product life cycle management should have thorough knowledge about the subject, variation guidelines, and entire European regulatory system of MRP, CP, DCP, and NP, that is national procedure. Okay, so with this, I have covered entire, Europe. Like we have discussed about European regulatory system, we have discussed about ASMF filing, we have discussed about CEP filing. Again, we have discussed how these generic applications are submitted in CTD, eCTD format, like ICH-M4. And today we have again recapped everything, and we have shown the live submission also in CTD format along with this variation also. So thank you very much for your kind attention, and we will stop here. Okay, and we'll discuss if you have any question, we will discuss. Thank you.